special about this city, that individuals will come out and speak in favor of something, probably things that are often controversial and might make it tense with your neighbors. But I think that's always remarkable bravery and a great thing to teach your daughter. So thank you for that. Having said that, I don't want to disrespect the concerns raised by those who've come out and spoke against. Certainly we've heard issues of safety, concerns of safety, and it is somewhat saddening to think that the experience with heat might be tainting the discussion about something very different, which is the provision of appropriate social housing with support services that is so critically needed in this city. So although I'll respect the concerns and the fears voiced, I would say that in my professional opinion and in our city's experience, the situation is radically different between zero barrier shelters and housing and support services. And certainly what we found is that safety issues come from the absence of housing, from the absence of support services, they don't come from the provision of such housing. So it is the absence and our challenge in keeping up with housing in this city that is causing some of the safety issues that we are perceiving on the street. And I think we have to say that definitively. And I think we've got a long experience to back that up. We also have long experience and I think growing experience as we move into additional social housing, that well-done operations management plans really do a lot to address the negatives, the concerns, etc. I'm not going to recommend altering the wording of the operations management plan conditions, but Ms. Evans, I would suggest to you, I encourage you to include some discussion with your immediate neighbors leading up to that process, because as we all know, that means it's more likely that the operations management plan is actually going to be a success. So I would certainly encourage you to do that. I'd like to thank staff for a very thorough analysis of the septet issues on the site and the proactive approach that we've taken to address many of those septet issues, which are the kind of design parameters that this board is used to dealing with. I'd like to encourage and make sure, and maybe the minutes can reflect that we've heard an intent to, the last year before the 3 years are up, put proper attention toward the issue of the relocation plan. I don't think we want to be here discussing, well, I don't think I want to, as the Director of Planning, be discussing the issue of relocation late in the game, and it's something I think we need to be very proactive about. I will suggest to the board either a friendly amendment or a motion that given the circumstances, given the concerns, I do think that the community has a right to make sure that if there's an extension proposed of this facility, that they are informed. Mr. Michaels tells me that it's usually our discretion as to whether or not to notify regarding a request to extend. Is that correct, Mr. Michaels? I think the board should direct the Director of Planning to notify if there is an extension request ultimately then, because I think there should be some ability for the community to know that, and if possible, or if necessary, if we hear comments from the public through that notification, we may even want to have a discussion at the Development Permit Board about such an extension. But I think the hope is that things will have gone so well in the operations management plan that it will all be a moot point. Okay, thank you. The last thing I'll say is we probably don't do enough to commend this kind of innovative partnership. And when issues are raised, we can sometimes forget to thank people who put these kinds of partnerships together. And Ms. Evans, we definitely probably don't do enough to thank you for the ongoing work that Portland does with all sorts of facilities and operations that help those most in need. So I do want to thank you for all the work that you've done and the work that you're specifically doing on this operation. I'd like to thank a brave developer. It is risky for a developer to establish a temporary use. Many developers would not want to do it because they might be potentially pinned with the baggage of having evicted the users later. So if the developer is in the audience or in earshot, I'd like to thank them for that. And we'd certainly like to see more developers be willing to do this sort of thing. And lastly, the only, and I hate to leave on a negative, but there were some comments raised in this evening about the possibility that there was something untoward happening in the discussions that have gotten the business association on side. I think the word kickback was used earlier, and I don't think we should let that word go unchallenged. I think the parties at work here are acting completely from a strong sense of integrity and a real commitment and a willingness to want to do something meaningful to address some pretty significant societal changes. So I don't think that kind of accusation is warranted or helpful. So with that, I'd like to quite enthusiastically support the motion and look forward to seeing the operation become a reality.
Thanks, Mr. Tyrone. So in summary, it's the decision of the board to support this application with a couple of friendly amendments. One is to eliminate conditions A18 and A19 with regard to the rooftop garden. And the second is to ensure that residents are notified at the time of any request to extend the permit beyond 3 years. And I would like to especially thank Maya for coming today. Thank you. We will take a break until 5:15 and then have to be very efficient on the next application.